was talking to one of my neighbors. It's right into him in the mall. The guy who lives in my building, he's really cool. We were talking about the sun and how it's like so strong now. It's like a different kind of sun. He says it's due to climate change, and I, of course, agree with him. Gotta hide that power level, you know. But yeah, like he knew exactly what I was talking about, you know. And I was like, he's like, yeah, I have to get out of the sun now in the afternoon. He's in like a wheelchair type thing, like, so he usually picks a spot outside and just hangs outside, you know, during the day. He moves around, but older gentleman. And he like right away when I was like, yeah, the sun is a lot harsher. He goes, oh yeah, it's different, you know. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It's very different, you know. And of course, like he was saying, yeah, it's climate change, this and that stuff. And yeah, you know, we've always had climate change. It's been changing since the beginning. You know, what a grip that thing is. You know, you think they talk so much about the polar ice caps and ice melting, and it's just, that stuff's been going on forever. And this idea that, you know, when the ice melts, you're going to get some kind of tidal wave. I always figure like it's the same amount of mass, right? So it's like, if you have a cup and you put, you know, ice cubes in it, that's not going to overflow when the ice cubes melt. I don't know. I'm sure someone would say, well, this is really big. This is billions and billions and billions and billions, like you know, the Carl Sagan thing. Everything's just so, the numbers are just so out there that it's like, you're supposed to like not bother with it. You know, like, oh, I can't think of that. Those numbers are too high. There must be some science boys that can do that, you know? That's how everything is. We're talking about the, mentioning, somehow got into talking about how you don't know your neighbors anymore. And that's why they love cities, because when you're in a city, the chances of you knowing anything about your neighbor is very high, you know? And they like that. They like to isolate you. They want to keep people isolated, especially with neighbors. And I mean, the reason that is because if you're isolated from your neighbors and you don't know them, stop them, and you don't know who they are, if they were to come for one of your neighbors for some reason, you're not going to say anything. You know, you're just going to be like, oh, wow, I wonder what that guy did. Now, if you know your neighbors, you know, like we used to in our communities, which is kind of I mean, it's possible in the city too. I know a lot of my neighbors, but it's not in the same way. And the chances of not knowing them are much higher. And the chances of not even speaking the same language is a lot higher. So then when, if you're in a community and you know everybody, if they come to take your neighbor out, they don't want someone to be like, hey, how come he's pulling Jeff out of the house? What the fuck, you know? And then, hey everybody, he's pulling Jeff out of the house. You know, they don't want that. You know, they don't want to have to deal with that. They want you to just look out your curtain and then say, oh, I wonder what that, he must have did something bad, and then just close the fucking curtain, and that's the end of it. And that's why they want people isolated from each other. They love the city system. It's like that, the city is like that mouse experiment. I forget what the fuck that thing's called. I think the scientific name is the mouse experiment. But basically, I watched a documentary on it. So as far as I'm concerned, that's settled science. Where they put a bunch of mice, or they're probably rats, in this area and made them live there. And all the stuff that happens over time, that way they sort of, one group kind of isolates, and then mating is all over the place, and then they start eating each other. It's pretty dire, but the thing is, we're not mice, you know? And they do that almost like mockery. It's like, well, we use mice because they're the closest to people. It's like, are they? Are they the closest to people? They'll tell you that. And another one that's close to people, pigs. It's mockery that they're telling you you are a pig or in a mouse. And that's what it is. So as far as I'm concerned, those experiments are non-conclusive as far as humans are concerned. You just can't, I don't know how much divinity there is among rats. I wouldn't say there's much at all. So without divinity, there's no empathy. It's a very cynical experiment to do. And I don't think you get much out of it, and I don't think they did. I'll have to pull that stuff up, and I'll link it here so you can see it. But the mouse utopia, the rat utopia, whatever the fuck it's called, that's their blueprint for cities, you know? Get as many people you can in the area, make sure they're all different, you know, try to mix people up, and there's a lot of ways they do that. And then you're easier to control. It's all about farm efficiency. You are their cattle, and they want to farm you as efficiently as possible. And if you apply that lens to a lot of the things you see around you, like, why is this like this? Why is it? Just to apply the farmer, apply the fucking green jeans lens to things, and they'll make a lot more sense. For some stuff. Other stuff, it's impossible to make sense of. Don't blame the teacher, blame the school.